In a world that hums with restless energy, where screens flicker with endless notifications and streets pulse with hurried steps, there is a quiet ache in the hearts of many. It's the ache of disconnection, not just from each other, but from something deeper, something eternal. Picture a young woman, Elena, sitting on a crowded subway at dusk. Her earbuds block out the world, but they can't silence the storm inside her. She's 28, a graphic designer working late nights to meet deadlines that never seem to end. Her phone buzzes with messages from friends, but she feels alone. Her parents are 1,000 miles away, and the last conversation with her mother ended in a sharp exchange of words she now regrets. The weight of her choices, her career, her fractured relationships, it all presses down like a heavy fog. She stares out the window at the city lights blurring past, wondering if this is all there is. Elena's story is not unique. It's the story of countless souls navigating the chaos of modern life, where stress is a constant companion and peace feels like a distant dream. We live in an age of abundance, yet we are starved for meaning. We are connected by technology, yet divided by anger, misunderstanding, and fear. The news feeds us stories of conflict nations at odds, communities torn apart, families fractured. And within us, there's a quieter conflict, the battle between who we are and who we long to be. In this fractured world, the teachings of Christ and the wisdom of Pope Francis call us back to a truth that is both ancient and urgently needed. Christ's message, echoed through the centuries, is simple yet profound. Love one another as I have loved you. Pope Francis, in his encyclical, Fratelli Tutti, builds on this, urging us to see every person as a brother or sister, to bridge divides with compassion, and to choose love over indifference. These are not abstract ideals, but practical guides for transforming our lives and our world. They invite us to step out of the noise and into the quiet power of connection, forgiveness, and purpose. Let's return to Elena. As the subway rattles along, she pulls out her phone and scrolls through her emails, but her thumb pauses on a notification from a local church she hasn't attended in years. It's an invitation to a community gathering, a simple evening of reflection and shared stories. Something stirs in her, a flicker of curiosity, maybe hope. She hesitates, then saves the event. That small act, that moment of openness, is where her journey begins. The teaching, the call to love amid conflict. Christ's command to love one another is found in John 13:34-35, spoken on the night before his crucifixion. It was a moment of profound intimacy as he washed his disciples' feet, knowing betrayal and death loomed. His love was not sentimental. It was radical, sacrificial, and unafraid of pain. He loved those who would deny him, those who would doubt him, those who would flee. This is the love he calls us to, a love that persists through conflict, misunderstanding, and brokenness. Pope Francis in Fratelli Tutti expands this call for our time. He writes, "We are called to rediscover our shared humanity, to build bridges where walls have been erected." He speaks of a world wounded by division, economic inequality, cultural clashes, and personal grudges. Yet he insists that love is the antidote. Love, he says, is not a feeling, but a choice, an action, a commitment to see the dignity in every person, even those who hurt us or disagree with us. For Elena, this teaching feels distant. Love. She can barely manage her own stress, let alone love the coworker who takes credit for her work or the stranger who cut her off in traffic. But the beauty of Christ's call, amplified by Pope Francis, is that it meets us where we are. It doesn't demand perfection. It asks for a beginning, a story of conflict and connection. Consider a real-life example, a small town in Michigan where a community was divided over a proposed housing project for low-income families. On one side were residents who feared it would lower property values and strain local resources. On the other were advocates who saw it as a moral necessity, a way to offer dignity to those struggling. Meetings grew heated, voices raised, accusations flung. It seemed the town would fracture beyond repair. Then a local pastor, Father Michael, stepped in. Inspired by Pope Francis's call to dialogue in Fratelli Tutti, he invited both sides to a series of gatherings, not debates, but conversations. He asked each person to share a personal story about what home meant to them. One woman, a homeowner, spoke of her childhood in a cramped apartment, how her parents' sacrifices gave her a stable life. A single mother hoping for the new housing shared her fear of losing her children to an unsafe neighborhood. As stories unfolded, walls began to crumble. People saw each other not as enemies, but as neighbors with shared hopes and fears. Father Michael introduced Christ's teaching, "Love your neighbor as yourself." He didn't preach, he asked questions. What does love look like here? How can we honor each other's dignity? Slowly, the community found a compromise. The housing project moved forward with added community programs to address concerns. It wasn't perfect, but it was a step toward love. This story mirrors Elena's struggle. Her conflict is personal. Her strained relationship with her mother, her isolation, her stress. But the principle is the same. Love begins with seeing the other, with listening, with choosing connection over division. Practical steps. Living love in daily life. How does Elena or any of us live this teaching in a world that feels so broken? Here are practical steps grounded in Christ's call and Pope Francis's wisdom to weave love into everyday life. Pause and pray. When stress or conflict arises, take a moment to breathe and pray. It doesn't need to be formal. A simple "Lord, help me see this person as you see them" can shift your perspective. For Elena, this might mean pausing before responding to a sharp email from her boss asking for grace to respond with kindness. Listen without agenda. Pope Francis emphasizes the art of listening truly, hearing another's story without planning your rebuttal. Try this in your next conversation. Focus entirely on understanding the other person. Ask questions. Resist the urge to interrupt. Elena could practice this with her mother, calling her not to argue, but to listen to her perspective. Small acts of kindness. Love doesn't require grand gestures. Christ washed feet. We can offer a smile, a compliment, or a helping hand. Elena might start by thanking her coworker for their contribution, even if it feels forced at first. These acts soften hearts, ours and others. Forgive one step at a time. Forgiveness is central to Christ's teaching, but it's hard. Pope Francis suggests starting small. Let go of a minor grudge like irritation over a friend's thoughtless comment. For Elena, this might mean forgiving herself for her sharp words to her mother, then reaching out to repair the bond. Seek community. We're not meant to walk alone. Pope Francis calls the church a field hospital, a place of healing. Elena's decision to attend the church gathering is a step toward community. Find a group, religious or not, where you can share and grow. It could be a book club, a volunteer group, or a parish event. These steps are simple but not easy. They require courage, humility, and persistence. Yet they are the threads that weave love into the fabric of our lives. Elena's first step. Let's return to Elena. She decides to attend the church gathering, though she's nervous. The room is filled with unfamiliar faces, older couples, young families, a few people her age. The facilitator, a warm woman named Clara, begins with a question. What brought you here tonight? People share. Hesitantly at first, a man speaks of losing his job, a mother of her worry for her teenage son. Elena surprises herself by speaking, I feel lost, like I'm running but getting nowhere. Her voice trembles, but the room listens, nods. She feels seen. Clara shares a quote from Pope Francis. Every person is a gift, a presence that can enrich our lives if we open our hearts. She ties it to Christ's parable of the Good Samaritan who saw a stranger suffering and acted. The group discusses, who is the stranger in your life? How can you reach out? Elena thinks of her mother. The distance between them feels like a chasm, but she resolves to call her tomorrow, not to fix everything, but to start. As the evening ends, Clara offers a challenge. This week, do one thing to show love to someone you've struggled with. It doesn't have to be big. Just take a step. Elena leaves feeling lighter, not because her problems are solved, but because she's not alone. She's part of something bigger, a community, a call of purpose, the power of one step. Elena's story is a microcosm of the world's. Her stress, her loneliness, her conflicts. They mirror the divisions in our families, workplaces, and nations. But Christ's call to love, amplified by Pope Francis's practical wisdom, offers a way forward. It's not about erasing conflict. It's about transforming it. It's about choosing to see the humanity in the coworker who annoys you, the neighbor who disagrees with you, the family member who hurt you. Think of the Michigan town. Their solution wasn't perfect, but it was born of listening, of seeing each other as gifts. Think of Elena's decision to call her mother. It's a small act, but it's a seed that could grow into reconciliation. These are the moments that change the world, not through grand gestures, but through ordinary courage and uplifting vision. As we close this first part, imagine a world where each of us takes one step toward love. Picture Elena, phone in hand, dialing her mother's number, her heart racing, but hopeful. Picture the Michigan town, once divided, now building homes and trust together. Picture yourself in your own life, choosing kindness over anger, listening over judging, forgiveness over resentment. Christ's love is not a distant ideal. It's a fire that burns in every act of compassion, every moment of connection. Pope Francis reminds us, we are made for love, and there is no greater joy than to share it. This is the call in troubled times to move from conflict to love, one step at a time. As Elena steps off the subway that night, the city lights no longer feel so cold. She carries a spark of hope, a sense that she's part of something greater, and so are you. The journey has begun, and it leads not to a destination, but to a way of living a life rooted in love, grounded in faith, and radiant with purpose. The next day, Elena wakes early. Her apartment is quiet, the morning light filtering through her curtains. She sits at her kitchen table, coffee in hand, and dials her mother's number. The phone rings, and her heart pounds. This is no grand gesture, no cinematic reconciliation. It's just a call, a moment, a choice. But in that choice lies the power to change everything. Elena's mother picks up on the third ring. "Hello?" Her voice is cautious, tinged with the weariness of their last argument. Elena grips her coffee mug, the warmth grounding her. "Hi, Mom. It's me. I just wanted to talk." There's a pause, heavy with unspoken history, but then her mother softens. "I'm glad you called." They don't dive into apologies or rehash old wounds. Instead, they talk about small things: Elena's latest design project, her mother's garden, the weather. It's awkward, tentative, but it's a start. As Elena hangs up, she feels a quiet shift inside her, like a door creaking open after years of being locked. This moment, fragile and ordinary, is where the journey of love continues. Elena's call wasn't a resolution, but it was a bridge, a step toward healing, inspired by the church gathering and the challenge to show love to someone she struggled with. The teachings of Christ and Pope Francis, which stirred her heart last night, are not about instant transformation. They're about persistence, about choosing love again and again, even when it's messy or uncertain. The city wakes around Elena as she prepares for her day. Her apartment, a small studio cluttered with sketchbooks and empty coffee cups, feels less like a cage this morning. She heads to work the subway, less oppressive, her earbuds tucked away. She's trying to stay open to notice the world around her. At the design firm, the usual chaos awaits: tight deadlines, a demanding client, and her co-worker Mark, who has a knack for stealing the spotlight. But today, Elena carries a new intention to live out the call to love, not just with her mother, but in the grind of daily life. The teaching mercy as the heart of love. Christ's life was a testament to mercy, a love that doesn't demand perfection, but offers grace instead. In the Gospel of Luke, he tells the story of the prodigal son, a father who welcomes his wayward child with open arms, no questions asked. This mercy is radical because it defies human logic. It doesn't wait for apologies or repayment. It runs to meet the broken, the lost, the undeserving. Jesus lived this mercy when he forgave those who crucified him, saying, "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do." Luke 23:34. Pope Francis, in his apostolic exhortation, Amoris Laetitia, calls mercy the beating heart of the gospel. He writes, "Mercy is the fullness of justice, because it sees the person, not just the fault." In a world quick to judge, cancel, or condemn, mercy is countercultural. It asks us to look beyond the surface, beyond the co-worker's arrogance, the friend's betrayal, or the stranger's mistake, and see the wounded heart beneath. For Pope Francis, mercy is practical. It's shown in patience, in forgiveness, in small acts that restore dignity. For Elena, mercy feels like a tall order. Mark, her co-worker, has been a thorn in her side for months. Last week, he presented her design idea as his own in a client meeting, and she's been simmering ever since. The idea of showing him mercy feels unfair, like letting him off the hook. Yet the teachings of Christ and Pope Francis challenge her to see Mark differently, not as an enemy, but as someone carrying his own struggles, perhaps unaware of the harm he's caused. A story of mercy in action. To understand mercy's power, consider a real-world example from a high school in Chicago. The school, in a neighborhood plagued by gang violence, was a battleground of its own. Cliques, fights, and grudges among students. One student, Jamal, was known for his temper. He'd been suspended twice for fighting, and teachers saw him as a lost cause. But a counselor, Ms. Rivera, saw something else. Inspired by Pope Francis's call to mercy in Amoris Laetitia, she decided to approach Jamal differently. Instead of punishment, Ms. Rivera invited Jamal to a restorative justice circle, a practice rooted in mercy and dialogue. In the circle, students and teachers shared how conflicts affected them. Jamal, reluctant at first, listened as a classmate spoke of feeling unsafe, another of losing a brother to violence. When it was his turn, Jamal's tough exterior cracked. He admitted his anger came from fear of being disrespected, of failing his family. Ms. Rivera didn't excuse his actions, but she helped him create a plan, mentoring younger students, channeling his energy into leadership. Over time, Jamal transformed, not because he was punished, but because someone showed him mercy, seeing his potential instead of his faults. This story resonates with Elena's challenge. Mark's behavior isn't as extreme as Jamal's, but the principle is the same. Mercy begins with seeing the person, not the problem. Elena wonders if Mark's need to shine comes from insecurity, maybe pressure from their competitive industry. She's not ready to forgive him fully, but she's willing to try a merciful approach to see him as more than her rival. Practical steps. Embodying mercy in everyday life. Mercy, like love, is a practice, not a feeling. Here are ways to live it out, inspired by Christ's example and Pope Francis's guidance tailored to the struggles of modern life. Reframe judgments. When someone frustrates you, pause and ask, what might they be going through? This doesn't excuse bad behavior, but shifts your perspective. Elena could try this with Mark, imagining the pressures he faces rather than assuming he's just selfish. Offer patience. Mercy often looks like giving someone space to grow. Instead of snapping at a rude cashier or a distracted driver, take a breath and let it go. For Elena, this might mean not reacting when Mark interrupts her in a meeting, choosing patience over resentment. Speak with kindness. Words can wound or heal. Before confronting someone, ask, how can I speak truth with mercy? Elena could approach Mark about the stolen idea not with accusation, but with a calm request to collaborate fairly. Forgive yourself. Mercy starts within. Pope Francis reminds us that God's mercy extends to our own failures. If you've messed up a harsh word, a missed opportunity, acknowledge it. Seek forgiveness and move forward. Elena carries guilt about her fight with her mother. Letting go of that guilt frees her to love others. Create space for healing. Mercy thrives in relationships. Invite someone you've clashed with for coffee or write a note to clear the air. Elena's call to her mother was a step in this direction. She could extend a similar gesture to a friend she's drifted from. These steps are not about ignoring justice or becoming a doormat. They're about choosing a higher path where mercy transforms conflict into growth. Elena's encounter with mercy. Back at the design firm, Elena faces a test. In a team meeting, Mark once again takes credit for a concept she pitched. Her instinct is to call him out, but she remembers the church gathering and the call to mercy. She takes a breath, her heart racing, and waits for the meeting to end. Afterward, she approaches Mark privately. Hey, I noticed you mentioned the layout idea to the client. I think we both worked on it, right? Maybe we can present it together next time. Her tone is firm but kind, leaving room for him to respond. To her surprise, Mark looks flustered. Oh yeah, I didn't mean to. I just got caught up. Sure, let's do that. It's not a full apology, but it's a crack in his usual bravado. Elena feels a mix of relief and frustration. She wanted more accountability, but she also senses this is a start. She's planted a seed of mercy, and it's already shifting their dynamic. That evening, Elena returns to the church for another gathering. The group is smaller this time, but the warmth is the same. Clara, the facilitator, shares a story from Christ's life. The woman caught in adultery, whom Jesus saved from stoning with the words, "Let he who is without sin cast the first stone." John 8:7. Clara connects it to Pope Francis's teaching. Mercy doesn't erase sin, but it opens a path to redemption. The group discusses moments when they've judged others or felt judged. Elena shares her encounter with Mark, admitting she's still angry, but trying to see him differently. An older man in the group. Tom nods. "That's mercy," he says. "It's not about feeling good. It's about giving someone a chance to be better." Tom's words linger with Elena as she walks home. She thinks about her mother, Mark, and even herself. Mercy isn't just for others. It's for her own heart, freeing her from the weight of grudges and self-doubt. She pulls out her phone and texts her mother. "Thanks for talking this morning. Can we do it again soon?" It's a small gesture, but it feels like a victory. The ripple effect of mercy. Elena's actions, her call to her mother, her approach to Mark, are ripples in a larger pond. Mercy, like love, multiplies when practiced. Think of Ms. Rivera's work with Jamal. His transformation didn't just change him, it inspired other students, eased tensions in the school, and gave teachers hope. One act of mercy can spark a chain reaction, softening hearts and building trust. Consider another example. A workplace in Seattle, where a manager inspired by Christ's parable of the prodigal son decided to give a struggling employee a second chance. The employee, Lisa, had missed deadlines and clashed with colleagues, teetering on the edge of being fired. Instead of termination, the manager offered her a mentor and flexible hours to address personal issues. Lisa thrived, becoming a team leader and fostering a culture of support. That single act of mercy reshaped the entire office, proving that compassion can be as practical as it is profound. Elena's journey mirrors these stories. Her small steps reaching out to her mother, showing Mark kindness, are not world-changing on their own, but they're part of a larger tapestry. Every time she chooses mercy, she's weaving a thread of healing into her life and the lives around her. A vision of transformation. As Elena settles into bed that night, her apartment feels different. The clutter is still there. The deadlines loom, but there's a quiet strength within her. She's beginning to see her struggles not as burdens, but as opportunities to love, to forgive, to grow. Christ's mercy, echoed in Pope Francis's teachings, is like a light cutting through the fog of her stress and isolation. It doesn't erase her challenges, but it gives her a way to face them. Imagine a world where mercy becomes our reflex. Picture Elena, weeks from now, laughing with her mother over a video call, their bond stronger for its cracks. Picture Mark slowly learning to collaborate, inspired by Elena's grace. Picture yourself offering patience to a stranger, forgiveness to a friend, compassion to your own heart. Pope Francis writes, "Mercy is the bridge that connects God and humanity. It's a bridge we build with every choice to see the good, to offer a second chance to love despite the pain." Elena is building that bridge one step at a time, and so can we. The next morning, Elena wakes to a text from her mother. "I'd love to talk again. How about this weekend?" She smiles, a warmth spreading through her. At work, she notices Mark hesitating before a meeting, then giving her credit for an idea. It's subtle, but it's progress. and as she steps into the subway, she sees a young man drop his wallet. Without thinking, she picks it up and hands it to him. He thanks her, and their eyes meet for a moment, a fleeting connection, but real. These moments, small and human, are where mercy lives. They're where Christ's call echoes, where Pope Francis's vision takes root, and there where Elena's story and ours continues to unfold, carrying the promise of a world transformed by love. The subway hums beneath Elena's feet as she clutches the young man's wallet in her hand, a split-second decision to act rather than ignore. His grateful smile lingers in her mind, a small spark of connection in the rush of the city. It's a fleeting moment, but it feels like a continuation of the mercy she's been practicing with her mother, with Mark, with herself. As she settles into her seat, the rhythm of the train seems to echo the rhythm of her thoughts. Small steps, steady, progress, a life slowly aligning with something greater. The weekend call with her mother is set. Mark's subtle shift at work feels like a victory, and now this tiny act of kindness to a stranger. It's as if the teachings of Christ and Pope Francis are weaving themselves into the fabric of her days, not as grand revelations, but as quiet, persistent invitations to live differently. Elena's journey is no longer just about mending one relationship or surviving one stressful day. It's about embracing a way of being, one that sees every moment, every encounter, as an opportunity to choose love over indifference, connection over isolation. The world around her hasn't changed. The news still blares with division, her inbox overflows with demands, and the city pulses with its relentless energy. But Elena is changing, and that shift is beginning to ripple outward, touching the lives of those around her. The teaching humility as the foundation of love. At the heart of Christ's life was humility, a love that knelt to wash feet, that embraced the outcast, that chose the cross over power. In the Gospel of Matthew, Jesus says, "Whoever wants to become great among you must be your servant." Matthew 20:26. This is not the greatness the world celebrates with its obsession with status, wealth, and recognition. It's a greatness born of lowering oneself, of putting others first, of finding strength in vulnerability. Pope Francis, in his encyclical Laudato Si', extends this humility to our relationship with each other and the world. He writes, "Humility is the recognition that we are all interconnected, that no one is above another, that we are stewards, not masters." He calls for a revolution of tenderness, where humility dismantles pride, greed, and division. In a culture that prizes self-promotion and competition, humility is radical. It asks us to listen before speaking, to serve without expecting reward, to admit our flaws without shame. For Elena, humility is a challenge. She's proud of her work, her creativity, her ability to thrive in a cutthroat industry. But pride has also fueled her conflicts with Mark, who threatens her spotlight, with her mother, whose advice she's dismissed, even with herself, when she judges her own failures harshly. Christ's humility, echoed by Pope Francis, invites her to let go of the need to be right, to be seen, to be perfect. It's a call to serve, to connect, to grow. A story of humility in action. Consider a real-life example from a small coffee shop in Portland, Oregon, where humility transformed a struggling business and its community. The shop, run by a woman named Sarah, was on the brink of closing. Competition from chain cafes, rising costs, and a disgruntled staff created a toxic atmosphere. Sarah, a devout Catholic, felt overwhelmed, but found inspiration in Pope Francis's call for humility in Laudato Si'. She realized her pride, her need to control every detail, to be the perfect owner, was part of the problem. Sarah decided to act. She called a staff meeting not to lecture but to listen. She admitted her mistakes micromanaging, ignoring her team's ideas, prioritizing profit over people. Then she asked, "How can we make this place better together?" The staff, initially skeptical, began to share. One barista suggested community events to draw customers. Another proposed a tip-sharing system to ease tensions. Sarah implemented their ideas, stepping back to let her team shine. She also started serving free coffee to local homeless residents, a small act of service that shifted the shop's culture. Word spread. Customers moved by the shop's warmth became regulars. The staff, empowered, worked with new energy. The shop didn't just survive, it thrived, becoming a hub of connection. Sarah's humility, her willingness to admit fault to serve rather than command, saved her business and built a community. Elena's world is different, but the lesson applies. Her pride, subtle but real, shows up in her reluctance to ask for help, her irritation when Mark overshadows her, her fear of vulnerability with her mother. Humility could be her path to deeper connection, not just with others, but with her own heart. Practical steps. Living humility in daily life. Humility is not about self-deprecation or weakness. It's about strength rooted in service and connection. Here are practical ways to embody it, inspired by Christ's example and Pope Francis's teachings for navigating modern struggles. Admit when you're wrong. It's hard, but owning a mistake disarms conflict and builds trust. If you snap at a friend or misjudge a colleague, apologize sincerely. Elena could try this with her mother, acknowledging how her defensiveness widened their rift. Ask for help. Humility means recognizing you can't do it all. Reach out to a coworker, friend, or mentor for support. Elena might ask a senior designer for feedback on her work setting aside her fear of looking incompetent. Celebrate others. Instead of competing, lift others up. Compliment a colleague's success, share credit, or thank someone publicly. Elena could praise Mark's contribution in a meeting even if it stings to foster collaboration. Serve quietly. Do something kind without seeking recognition. A chore for a roommate, a donation to a cause, a prayer for someone struggling. Elena might leave a kind note for her overworked boss, a small gesture that shifts her perspective. Reflect on interconnection. Pope Francis emphasizes our shared humanity. Take a moment each day to consider how your actions affect others, your family, community, even strangers. Elena could journal about how her choices at work ripple into her team's dynamic. These steps require courage, especially in a world that equates humility with weakness. But they are the building blocks of a life rooted in love. Elena's lesson in humility. Friday arrives, and Elena's day is a whirlwind. A client rejects her latest design, her boss piles on extra work, and Mark, despite his recent gesture, interrupts her in a brainstorming session. By afternoon, she's fuming, her pride bruised. She wants to confront Mark, to prove her worth to her boss, to fight for control. But as she sits at her desk, she remembers the church gathering and Clara's words about the Good Samaritan who served without expecting reward. She thinks of Pope Francis's revolution of tenderness, where humility transforms conflict into connection. Instead of storming into her boss's office, Elena takes a walk to clear her head. She passes a street vendor selling flowers, and on impulse buys a small bouquet. Back at the office, she places it on her boss's desk with a note. "Thanks for pushing us to do our best." It's a tiny act, but it feels like a release, a letting go of her need to be seen as perfect. Her boss usually stern smiles when she sees the flowers and later thanks Elena for her hard work. It's not a promotion, but it's a moment of warmth in a tense day. With Mark, Elena tries a different approach. After the meeting, she catches him at the coffee machine. "Hey, you had some great ideas today," she says, forcing a smile. "I think we could make them even stronger if we teamed up on the next pitch." Mark looks surprised, then nods. "Yeah, that could work." It's not a deep bond, but it's a step away from rivalry, a humble choice to build rather than tear down. That evening, Elena prepares for her call with her mother. She's nervous, aware of their history of clashing egos. Before dialing, she takes a moment to pray a habit she's rediscovering. "God, help me listen. Help me let go of being right." When her mother answers, Elena doesn't dive into old arguments. Instead, she asks, "How's your garden doing? Tell me about it." Her mother lights up, describing her roses, her struggles with pests. For the first time in years, they talk without tension. Elena shares a story about her stressful week, admitting she feels overwhelmed. Her mother listens, then says, "You're doing so much, Elena. I'm proud of you." The words catch Elena off guard, a balm to her pride-wounded heart. The ripple of humility. Elena's choices, buying the flowers, praising Mark, listening to her mother, are small, but they carry weight. Humility, like mercy and love, multiplies. Sarah's coffee shop in Portland didn't just save a business. It created a space where strangers became friends, where a community found common ground. Elena's acts, though personal, are part of the same revolution. Her boss's smile, Mark's tentative openness, her mother's pride. These are signs of a shift not just in relationships, but in Elena herself. Think of another example, a teacher in a rural school who, inspired by Christ's humility, changed his classroom's culture. Mr. Lopez, frustrated by his students' apathy, realized his lectures were more about proving his knowledge than serving his kids. He started asking students to lead discussions, share their stories, and teach him about their lives. The classroom transformed, engagement soared, conflicts dropped, and students felt valued. Mr. Lopez's humility didn't just teach math, it taught connection. Elena's journey mirrors these stories. Her humility is dismantling the walls of pride that kept her isolated. She's not perfect. She still feels the sting of rejection, the urge to compete, but she's choosing a different path, one step at a time. A vision of connection. As Elena ends her call with her mother, she feels a quiet joy. The conversation wasn't flawless, but it was real. She thinks of the street vendor, the flowers, Mark's nod, and her mother's words. These moments woven together are her revolution of tenderness. Christ's humility, amplified by Pope Francis's call, is not about erasing ambition or strength. It's about redirecting them toward service, toward love, toward a world where no one is left behind. Picture a world where humility shapes our days. Imagine Elena, months from now, collaborating with Mark on a project that wins praise not for glory but for teamwork. Imagine her mother visiting their bond stronger for its honesty. Imagine yourself letting go of the need to win, choosing to serve, to listen, to connect. Pope Francis writes, "Humility is the soil where love grows. It's the soil Elena is tending, where her relationships, her faith, her purpose are taking root." As she falls asleep, the city's noise fades, and she feels a peace she hasn't known in years. It's not the absence of struggle, but the presence of hope, a hope that carries her forward. The next morning, Elena wakes early. Her apartment is still cluttered, her to-do list long, but she feels lighter. At work, she notices a new intern struggling with a design program. Instead of rushing to her own tasks, she stops to help, remembering how lost she felt starting out. The intern, grateful, asks her to lunch, and Elena says yes. It's a small moment, but it's another thread in the tapestry of her life, a life increasingly shaped by love, mercy, and humility, ready to face whatever comes next. Elena sits across from the new intern Priya at a small cafe near the design firm. The hum of conversation and clinking dishes surrounds them, but Elena is fully present, listening as Priya shares her nervousness about fitting in. Elena remembers her own early days, feeling out of place, desperate to prove herself. She offers a few tips on navigating the firm's fast pace, her words gentle but practical. Priya's eyes brighten, and she thanks Elena with a sincerity that catches her off guard. As they part ways, Elena feels a warmth spreading through her, not from pride, but from connection. Helping Priya wasn't planned. It was a natural extension of the humility she's been practicing, the mercy she's been showing, the love she's been learning to live. This lunch, like her call with her mother, her gesture to Mark, or the flowers for her boss, is another step in Elena's transformation. The teachings of Christ and Pope Francis are no longer distant ideals, but threads woven into her daily choices. She's not free of stress, her clients' rejection still stings, and her workload is relentless, but she's finding a new way to carry it. The city around her buzzes with its usual chaos, yet Elena is carving out moments of peace not by escaping the world, but by engaging with it differently. The teaching, joy as the fruit of love. Christ's life radiated joy even amid suffering. In John 15:11, he tells his disciples, "I have told you this, so that my joy may be in you, and that your joy may be complete." This joy wasn't rooted in circumstances Jesus faced, betrayal, rejection, and death, but in his connection to God and others. It was a joy that flowed from love, from giving himself fully, from trusting in a purpose greater than himself. Pope Francis, in his apostolic exhortation, Gaudete et exsultate, calls this joy the hallmark of holiness. He writes, "Joy is not a fleeting emotion, but a deep-seated peace that comes from living for others." He challenges us to find joy in ordinary moments, in serving, forgiving, and building community despite the world's pain. In a culture obsessed with instant gratification, where stress and cynicism often drown out hope, this joy is revolutionary. It's a choice to see beauty amid brokenness, to celebrate small victories, to trust that love bears fruit. For Elena, joy feels elusive. Her life is a treadmill of deadlines, bills, and unresolved tensions. Yet the moments of connection, Priya's gratitude, her mother's warmth, Mark's tentative respect, are sparking something new. Christ's joy, amplified by Pope Francis's call, invites her to lean into these moments, to let them fuel her, rather than fixating on what's missing. A story of joy in action. Consider a real-life example from a community center in Atlanta, where joy transformed a group of struggling families. The center, in a neighborhood marked by poverty and distrust, offered after-school programs, but struggled with low attendance. The director, Maria, a woman of deep faith, felt discouraged. Inspired by Pope Francis's Gaudete et exsultate, she decided to shift the center's approach. Instead of focusing on what was lacking, she leaned into joy. Maria organized a family festival, not with a big budget, but with creativity and heart. Volunteers cooked meals, kids painted murals, and parents shared stories through music and poetry. Maria invited everyone to contribute, no matter how small their offering. One father, a reserved man named Carlos, brought a guitar and played a song he'd written about his daughter. The crowd cheered and Carlos's face lit up a rare smile. The festival wasn't just a one-day event. It sparked ongoing gatherings from potlucks to art classes. Families who once felt isolated began to connect, finding joy in shared moments. The center became a beacon, not because it solved every problem, but because it celebrated life amid hardship. Elena's world is less communal, more solitary, but the principle applies. Her stress and disconnection can't be erased, but she can choose joy by embracing the small, beautiful moments, Priya's gratitude, a kind word from her mother, a shared laugh with a colleague. Joy, like love, mercy, and humility, is a practice that grows with intention. Practical steps. Cultivating joy in daily life. Joy is not about ignoring pain, but finding light within it. Here are practical ways to live it. Inspired by Christ's example and Pope Francis's teachings tailored to modern struggles, savor small moments. Notice the beauty in ordinary things. A sunrise, a stranger's smile, a warm meal. Pause to feel gratitude for them. Elena could start her day by writing down one thing that brought her joy yesterday, like Priya's enthusiasm. Share your gifts. Joy grows when you give. Offer your time skills or kindness to someone. Elena might volunteer to mentor Priya regularly, finding joy in her growth. Laugh through struggles. Humor even in tough times is a spark of joy. Share a light-hearted story or find humor in a minor setback. Elena could joke with Mark about their clients' impossible demands, easing their tension. Connect with others. Joy thrives in relationships. Spend time with people who lift you up even briefly. Elena could join a coworker for coffee or attend another church gathering to share stories. Trust in hope. Pope Francis reminds us that joy is rooted in faith in trusting God's presence. When despair creeps in, pray or reflect on a hopeful promise, like Christ's words, "I am with you always," Matthew 28:20. Elena could keep a favorite verse on her desk to ground her during stressful days. These steps don't erase hardship, but they build a reservoir of joy that sustains us through it. Elena's discovery of joy. Monday morning. Elena arrives at the firm feeling unusually energized. The weekend call with her mother was a success. They laughed about old family stories, and her mother promised to visit soon. At work, Elena decides to try something new. During a team meeting, she shares a funny anecdote about a client's bizarre feedback, and the room erupts in laughter. Even Mark chuckles and the mood lightens. It's a small moment, but it feels like a gift, a shared spark of joy in a high-pressure environment. Later, Elena notices Priya struggling with a design tool again. Instead of rushing to her own tasks, she spends an hour walking Priya through it, sharing shortcuts she's learned. Priya's relief is palpable, and she insists on treating Elena to coffee the next day. As they work, Elena feels a quiet happiness, not from praise, but from giving. She's beginning to see her work not just as a grind, but as a chance to connect, to create, to serve. That evening, Elena attends another church gathering. The group is growing, and Clara welcomes new faces with her usual warmth. Tonight's theme is joy, and Clara shares Christ's parable of the talents, Matthew 25:14-30, where servants are entrusted with gifts and called to use them boldly. She ties it to Pope Francis's call in Gaudete et Exsultate. God asks us to be bearers of joy, to multiply the gifts we've been given. The group discusses, what gifts do you have? How can you share them to bring joy? Elena listens as others share. A retired nurse talks about volunteering at a clinic, a young father about coaching his daughter's soccer team. When it's her turn, Elena hesitates, then says, "I'm a designer, and I love creating things that make people feel something. I'm starting to see my work as a gift, not just a job. And helping someone at work today, it made me happy." Clara smiles. "That's joy, Elena. It's what happens when you give yourself away." Inspired, Elena decides to take a risk. She's been working on a personal art project, a series of illustrations about hope, but hasn't shared it, fearing criticism. At the gathering's end, she shows Clara a sketch on her phone. Clara's eyes widen. "This is beautiful. You should share it with the group next time." Elena blushes, but nods, a mix of fear and excitement stirring within her. The ripple of joy. Elena's choices, laughing with her team, mentoring Priya, sharing her art, are small but powerful. Joy, like the other virtues she's embraced, spreads. Maria's festival in Atlanta didn't just lift one family. It wove a community together, giving people a reason to hope. Elena's moments of joy are doing the same, subtly shifting her workplace, her relationships, her own heart. Think of another example, a nurse in a busy hospital who found joy amid burnout, inspired by Christ's promise of complete joy. She started a gratitude wall in the break room where staff pinned notes about small victories, a patient's recovery, a colleague's kindness. The wall became a lifeline, reminding everyone of the good amid the chaos. The nurse's simple act spread joy, reducing stress and fostering camaraderie. Elena's journey mirrors these stories. Her laughter in the meeting, her time with Priya, her tentative sharing of her art. These are her gratitude wall, her festival, her way of multiplying joy. She's not free of challenges. Her client's demands loom, and her mother's visit will bring its own tensions, but she's learning to find light in the dark. A vision of radiance. As Elena walks home from the church, the city feels alive, not oppressive. The streetlights glow, a busker's music drifts through the air, and she notices a child skipping ahead of her parents, carefree. She smiles, savoring the moment. Christ's joy, echoed in Pope Francis's call, is not about escaping pain, but embracing life fully, its mess, its beauty, its possibility. Imagine a world where joy is our lens. Picture Elena weeks from now sharing her illustrations at the church, inspiring others to create. Picture Priya thriving, passing on Elena's kindness to another intern. Picture yourself pausing to laugh, to give, to trust, even when life feels heavy. Pope Francis writes, "Joy is the echo of God's life within us." It's the echo Elena hears in her laughter, her art, her connections. As she climbs the stairs to her apartment, she pulls out her sketchbook inspired to draw. The page fills with lines of hope. A city skyline faces smiling hands reaching out. It's her vision of the world she's helping build, one joyful moment at a time. The next morning, Elena wakes to a text from Priya. "Thanks for yesterday. You're a lifesaver." She laughs, then checks her email, bracing for stress. But there's a surprise. Her boss has forwarded a client's praise for her latest design. It's not a cure-all, but it's a spark, a reminder that her efforts matter. At work, she catches Mark's eye and offers a genuine smile. He returns it, and for a moment they're not rivals but teammates. As Elena steps into the subway that evening, she feels a shift. The weight of her struggles hasn't vanished, but it's lighter, balanced by joy. She's not just surviving the city's chaos, she's shaping it with every laugh, every gift, every connection. Her story, like the teachings of Christ and Pope Francis, is a call to us all to choose joy, to live, love, to transform the world one radiant moment at a time. Elena's sketchbook lies open on her kitchen table, the city skyline she drew last night glowing under the morning light. Each line feels like a prayer, a vision of hope that's taken root in her heart. The past weeks have been a quiet revolution, her call to her mother, her kindness to Mark, her mentoring of Priya, her sharing at the church gatherings. These moments, woven with the teachings of Christ and Pope Francis, have reshaped her. She's not free of stress or conflict. Her mother's visit is days away, and work remains a pressure cooker. But she's found a rhythm, a way of living that carries love, mercy, humility, and joy into the chaos of her days. Today, Elena feels a new call stirring. It's not enough to transform her own heart. She wants to share this light with others to help them find the peace she's discovering. The city around her is still fractured. News of protests, economic strain, and personal struggles fill the air, but Elena sees possibility where she once saw only noise. Her journey, which began with a hesitant step into a church gathering, is now a path she wants to invite others to walk. The teaching mission. As the overflow of love, Christ's final command to his disciples was a call to mission. Go and make disciples of all nations. Matthew 28:19. This wasn't a demand for conquest, but an invitation to share the love, mercy, and joy they'd received. Jesus lived this mission in every encounter, teaching, healing, forgiving, showing that the kingdom of God is built through relationships, not power. His life was a beacon drawing others to a love that transforms. Pope Francis, in his encyclical Evangelii Gaudium, calls this mission the joy of the gospel. He writes, "Every Christian is a missionary to the extent that they have encountered the love of God in Christ Jesus." This mission isn't about preaching from a pulpit. It's about living authentically, sharing faith through actions, and inviting others into community. In a world marked by division and despair, Pope Francis urges us to be missionary disciples, carrying hope to workplaces, families, and streets. For Elena, mission feels daunting. She's no preacher, no saint. Her faith is still fragile, her life still messy. Yet the teachings of Christ and Pope Francis show that mission begins where she is with her talents, her relationships, her small acts of courage, her art, her empathy, her growing community at the church. These are her tools to share love's transformative power. A story of mission in action. Consider a real-life example from a neighborhood in Houston where a single mother, Rosa, turned her pain into a mission. Rosa lost her son to gun violence, a tragedy that could have broken her. Instead, inspired by Pope Francis's call in Evangelii Gaudium to share hope, she started a support group for grieving families. At first, it was just a few parents meeting in her living room sharing stories and tears. Rosa didn't have answers, but she offered presence, faith, and a listening ear. Word spread, and the group grew. Rosa organized vigils inviting the community to pray for peace. She partnered with local schools to mentor at-risk youth, using her son's memory to inspire change. Her mission wasn't polished. She stumbled, doubted, wept, but it was authentic. Families found healing, teens found purpose, and the neighborhood began to knit together. Rosa's group became a light in the darkness, proving that mission flows from a heart touched by love. Elena's life is different, but the principle resonates. Her struggles, stress, disconnection, conflict are her starting point, just as Rosa's grief was hers. Elena's art, her workplace relationships, her church community. These are her mission field, where she can share the hope she's found. Practical steps. Living mission in daily life. Mission is not about grand gestures, but about intentional everyday choices. Here are practical ways to live it, inspired by Christ's call and Pope Francis's wisdom for navigating modern challenges. Share your story. Authenticity invites connection. Share a moment when faith or kindness changed you, even in casual conversation. Elena could tell Priya about the church gatherings not to convert her, but to share what's given her hope. Invite others. In community is a gift. Invite someone to a meaningful event, a volunteer day, a book club, a church service. Elena might ask a coworker to join her at the next church gathering, creating space for connection. Use your gifts. Your talents are your mission tools. If you're a writer, write for a cause. If you're a cook, feed someone in need. Elena could share her illustrations at the church or create art for a local charity, using her creativity to inspire. Be a witness in conflict. In tense moments, show love instead of anger. When debates flare at work or online, respond with calm and respect. Elena could model this with Mark, staying collaborative even when he frustrates her. Pray for others. Mission includes prayer. Lift up someone struggling, a friend, a stranger, a nation. Elena could pray for her mother's visit, her team's stress, or the city's divisions, trusting her prayers matter. These steps are simple but powerful, turning ordinary moments into opportunities to share love's light. Elena's mission begins. It's Thursday, and Elena's mother arrives tomorrow. The thought fills her with both excitement and nerves. Their bond is healing, but old patterns linger. At work, Elena is juggling a major project, and Mark's competitive streak resurfaces, claiming credit for a shared idea. She's tempted to snap, but she pauses, remembering the church's latest discussion on mission. Clara had shared Pope Francis's words. A missionary heart never closes itself off, never gives up on anyone. Elena decides to respond with grace, not resentment. After the meeting, she pulls Mark aside. "I love how we're building on each other's ideas," she says, her tone steady. "Let's make sure the client knows it's a team effort." Mark hesitates, then agrees, a flicker of respect in his eyes. It's not a full resolution, but it's a moment of mission choosing collaboration over conflict, planting a seed of change. That evening, Elena attends the church gathering, her sketchbook tucked under her arm. Clara had encouraged her to share her art, and tonight feels like the moment. The group discusses Christ's call to be salt and light, Matthew 5:13-16, bringing flavor and hope to the world. When it's time to share, Elena's heart races, but she stands. "I've been working on some drawings," she says, opening her sketchbook. They're about hope, about finding light in tough times. She passes the sketches around images of city streets glowing with warmth, faces lit by smiles, hands clasped across divides. The group is quiet, then erupts in praise. Tom, the older man, says, "This is what we need. Something to remind us of what's possible." Clara suggests displaying the art at the church's upcoming community day, and Elena agrees, a mix of fear and joy bubbling within her. Sharing her art feels like a mission, a way to offer hope to others. Inspired, Elena takes another step. She invites Priya to the community day, describing it as a fun event with food, music, and stories. Priya, curious, says she'll come. Elena also texts a co-worker, Sarah, who's been stressed about layoffs, inviting her too. It's a small gesture, but it feels like an extension of her mission to build community, to share the light she's found. Preparing for her mother's visit. Friday morning. Elena cleans her apartment, nerves fluttering as she prepares for her mother's arrival. She wants the visit to be perfect, but she knows perfection isn't the goal, connection is. She prays a habit now as natural as breathing. God, help us see each other. Help us love. When her mother arrives, their hug is warm but tentative, a reminder of their fragile progress. Over dinner, they talk, really talk. Elena shares her art, her church experiences, her struggles at work. Her mother listens, then opens up about her own fears, aging, loneliness, the distance between them. For the first time, Elena sees her mother not as a critic, but as a woman carrying her own burdens. They don't resolve every past hurt, but they laugh, cry, and promise to keep talking. As her mother sleeps on the pull-out couch, Elena feels a deep peace, not because everything's fixed, but because they're walking together. Saturday is the community day, and Elena's mother joins her, curious about the church that's changed her daughter. The event is vibrant. Kids paint murals, volunteers serve food, music fills the air. Elena's illustrations are displayed on a table, and people stop to admire them, some asking if they're for sale. Elena, blushing, says they're just to share, but Clara whispers, "You could do this for a living, art that heals." The idea sparks something in Elena, a dream she tucks away for now. Priya and Sarah arrive, and Elena introduces them to Clara and Tom. Priya dives into a painting activity, laughing with kids, while Sarah shares a quiet moment with Elena's mother, bonding over stories of work stress. The day feels like Rose's support group in Houston, a space where strangers become neighbors, where hope takes root. Elena's mission, small as it is bearing fruit not just in her heart, but in the lives she's touching. The ripple of mission. Elena's actions, her grace with Mark, her art at the church, her invitations to Priya and Sarah are ripples in a larger wave. Rosa's group in Houston didn't just heal families. It inspired a city to rethink violence. Elena's mission is quieter, but it's no less powerful. Her art inspires a teenager at the community day to start drawing. Her kindness to Mark shifts their team's dynamic, easing tensions. Her openness with her mother strengthens their bond, giving her mother courage to reconnect with old friends. Think of another example. A retiree in a small town who, inspired by Christ's call to mission, started a free tutoring program. Mr. Chen, a former engineer, saw kids struggling in his community and offered math help at the library. His program grew, drawing volunteers and lifting test scores. Mr. Chen's mission didn't change the world, but it changed his town one child at a time. Elena's journey mirrors these stories. Her mission isn't about scale, but impact. Each act of love, each shared moment, builds a world where connection triumphs over division. A vision of hope. As the community day ends, Elena stands with her mother, Priya, and Sarah watching the sunset over the city. The skyline mirrors her sketch lights, glowing lives intersecting hope, rising. Christ's mission, amplified by Pope Francis's call, is a fire in her heart, not consuming, but warming, urging her to keep going. She's not a saint, not perfect, but she's a missionary disciple carrying love into her world. Imagine a world where mission is our heartbeat. Picture Elena, months from now, mentoring artists at the church, her illustrations in local galleries. Picture Priya and Sarah finding community, passing on Elena's kindness. Picture yourself sharing a story, inviting a friend, using your gifts to heal. Pope Francis writes, "The joy of the gospel fills the hearts and lives of all who encounter Jesus. It's the joy Elena feels as she hugs her mother goodbye, as she plans her next art project, as she steps into Monday with purpose." Her story. Our story is a testament to love's power, a call to carry Christ's light into troubled times. Sunday morning, Elena wakes early. Her mother is gone, but their bond feels stronger, a promise of more visits, more talks. At work, she'll face Mark Priya and new challenges, but she's ready, not with fear, but with faith. As she steps into the subway sketchbook in hand, the city feels like a canvas waiting for her to paint it with love, mercy, humility, joy, and mission. The journey continues, and she's not alone.